Okay, let's just make sure everything's working out. There we go. We got the screen up. Just give me a second, guys. Put the old headset on. Okay, we are live. Our stream looks to be working well. Hey there, I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake with your name. Is it Gofrain? If I made a mistake, I apologize. Good to have you with us. So, for those of you unaware, this is the first episode of The Grammar Gamer. The idea for this series is to do something a little bit different to what a lot of other YouTubers, particularly those who teach English, do. Learning English, while very important, can be a little bit boring, particularly if you aren't the kind of person who's good at focusing on a topic or a subject for a long period of time. If you're like me, you enjoy video games, you enjoy more modern pop culture, and so the idea of this series is to teach English while doing something really fun that you would do in your free time. Hopefully, if you're paying attention to the games, you'll also pick up some English. The usual structure of my videos are very concise, very precise about a specific topic. I script them, I film them, I edit them down to be as clear as possible. With this series, because I'm live streaming, we do have some topics that we'll cover, but depending on what's happening in the game, what's happening in the chat, we won't get through everything quite as quickly and quite as clearly. It's going to be a little bit more free form, a little bit more flowing. But should also be a lot of fun. So, without further ado, let me tell you about the topics for this evening. We're going to cover 3, hopefully 4 of the most important tenses in the English language. Start with present simple. We'll then move on to present continuous or present progressive. After that, we're going to take a look at past simple. And ideally, if we have time, we'll move on to present perfect tense. Present perfect is quite a detailed tense. There's a lot of different moving parts, more than the other ones. So we might not have time to cover everything about present perfect, but hopefully we'll hit the main topics. We'll look at when to use the different tenses and also how to use the different tenses. So the times when you should use them and the structure associated with the tense, so you're using it correctly. The game I'm going to be playing this evening is called PlayerUnknown's Battleground. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the game. It's a battle royal game. The idea behind it is there are 100 people to begin, and then when you die, that's it. That's the end of your game. You leave and you start a new game. And there's only one person left standing at the end, and they're the winner. Because of that, I probably won't win. I'm not a great player, I'm just okay. And there are 99 other people who want to win. So chances are won't do too well. Hopefully I get to the top 10 a couple of times. It's also quite an intense game. By that I mean sometimes it takes a lot of focus and you have to be listening really carefully, and you get a bit nervous. The heart rate starts going and your hands get a bit shaky. So I'll do my best to stay on topic, but if I sort of lose it a little bit and if I start getting distracted about what I'm saying and focusing on the game, I apologize for that. It's just the nature of the game. Alright, let's get started. Let's jump straight into a game. What I'll do is wait till I get everything landed on the first go, then we'll jump straight into the lesson. Like I said, we're going to start with present simple tense. I'll talk first about 2 main times that we use present simple tense, followed by the structure. Present simple structure is actually a little bit confusing considering it is a basic tense. Just turn the game volume down a little bit. Yeah, the structure of present simple can be a little bit confusing for some people, so we'll spend some time going through that. Let's just turn these down a little bit. Should be a little bit quieter. Also, if you hear tapping, that's my keyboard tapping in the background. I apologize. It's a mechanical keyboard. Let me just have a look. Hello, Susanna. How are you doing? It's a mechanical keyboard, so it does make a little bit of noise, and I apologize, but hopefully you can hear my voice over the tapping. Okay, so the game always starts on that island, then you get put into a plane, and then we end at this big island you can see on the screen now. Anywhere in here you can see the line the plane is going along. I'm just going to choose some random place to start. Let's go here. Should be a little bit quieter. And then as the game progresses, there's a circle, and the circle slowly moves in, and if you go outside the circle, you take some damage and you end up dying, which is not great. But if you stay within the circle, everyone comes a little bit closer, so it becomes more intense. So we'll have to try and do a little bit of a balance between staying away from other people and moving in. All the while doing some English. Should be easy, right? I don't know. Probably not. We'll see. Okay, so I am heading for these 3 houses here. And if we look around, we can see some other people above me in their parachutes popping out. There's a guy over here. I should mention, just in case, because we are using PCs and, you know, internet connections, there's a chance that the lesson will cut out just because the internet might die or there might be a problem with the computer. If that happens, don't worry, I'm going to come back. It'll just take 5 minutes. Hopefully YouTube will keep the same stream going just with a break in the middle, but probably not. We might have to start up a new stream, but I will come back, don't worry. I'm not going to disappear without you knowing. Normally takes 3 or 4 minutes to get back online. Okay, let's just get some items. There's a helmet, protect my head, so I don't lose all the information in there. I didn't see anyone land outside, so that's quite good. Okay, we have a shotgun, some health, and we'll grab the Uzi, why not? What do we have here? Okay, that's enough basic gear to begin with. Let's start with the lesson. First tense we're going to look at today, present simple tense. Present simple is usually the first tense people learn about when studying English because it's considered the most basic tense. Anything in the present is considered basic, and the simple aspect is that we just use the basic form of the verb. We don't include any thing with the verb to be. There's no continuous, no gerunds involved. There's no have or has, nothing like that. So the structure of present simple tense is the subject plus verb 1, the base form of the verb. The base form of the verb, however, is not the infinitive. It's a confusion a lot of people make. The infinitive form of a verb cannot change. An infinitive is always exactly what it says. It's always an infinitive. So in the case of the verb to be is the infinitive. However, in present simple, we could have is, am, and are as verb 1. So be a little bit careful there. It's not plus the infinitive, it's actually plus what I'll call verb 1, which is a slightly modified version. Okay, you got some more health. So like I said, structure is subject plus verb 1. The confusion a lot of people have is because the verb 1 changes depending on the subject of the sentence. So, this is a nicer gun, let's change for this one. In the case of the subjects I, you, we, and they, we just use the normal form of the verb. For example, I play video games, I like pizza, they live in America. So we just use the subject, I, you, we, they, plus the verb. Very simple. If, however, we change the subject of the sentence to, what's this? To he, she, or it, things change a little bit. We no longer would say he play, she play. We actually have to put an S or an ES at the end of the verb. So let's just make sure nobody's hunting us. It will become he plays, she plays, it plays. If you're talking about a dog or a pet and you don't know the sex, the gender of the dog. Let's pick up a couple of these, why not? Okay, so that's the basic structure of present simple, subject plus verb 1. Be careful about the subject. The subject will decide whether or not you put an S or an ES at the end of the verb. When do we use present simple tense? Present simple tense is primarily used in two different situations. The first situation we'll use present simple tense is to talk about facts, things which are always true. Let's take the example of a dog. If I ask you, how many legs does a dog have? Hopefully, as long as the dog hasn't had an accident in its life, you'll say a dog has 4 legs. I'm going to try and get that parachute that's just dropped. So we just have a dog has, a dog is a subject, has is the verb. A dog has 4 legs. If I ask you, where do you live? You might say, I live in America, I live in Saudi Arabia, I live in Cambodia, something like that. I live. That's talking about things which are facts. They are always true. Oops, I should not run into this red circle or a bomb might kill me. Let's just run out to safety. We're right in the middle, that's good. Okay. That's one usage for facts. Another usage which is very, very common is referring to our routines. These are the things that we do many, many times again and again and again. Not something we did once, something that we do regularly. So the easiest way to think about this is to, oops, let's be careful. That could have a good gun in it, but there's probably somebody around trying to get it. Reload. Yeah, routines. So routines are things that we do every day, every week, more than once, basically. If we take the example of your morning routine, okay? In the case of me, now there's a good chance I might die here, so I apologize. What do we have? We have a Mark 14. This is a very powerful gun. And we'll put that on, and oh, there's a guy. And we're just gonna run away before he shoots me. Oops. Okay, let's reload. I know he's just over there somewhere. Oops, there we go. Oh. There we go. Dead. Never mind. So, routines. I wake up at, usually I wake up at 7 a.m. I brush my teeth. I always brush my teeth first thing. It's a personal choice. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I have a shower, I eat breakfast. Sometimes I drink coffee at home, but usually I drink coffee at work. These are my daily routines. Things which are not daily can still be a routine. For example, every week I visit my parents. In that sentence, the subject is I, and the verb is visit. I visit my parents. Routines can even be less frequent than weekly. They can be monthly. They can be yearly. Every year, my family and I go on holiday. Every 5 years, I take a test to keep my qualifications valid. Something like that. So a routine doesn't have to be very, very often. It can actually be very infrequent, so long as it's done more than once and has some sort of repeated element to it. So that's what we'd call a routine to be. So that's the affirmative structure of present simple with routines and facts, subject plus verb 1. When we want to talk about negative sentences, we change the structure a little bit, but the time that we use the tense remains the same. It's still used to talk about facts, it's still used to talk about routines. So in the case of the subjects I, you, we, and they, I mentioned that they are used with subject plus verb 1, no S, no ES. Oh, we have this gentleman over here who's going to shoot me. Let's move away from him. The subject plus S plus ES. If it's negative, the structure is the subject, I, you, we, they, plus don't, or do not. Normally we use a contracted form, don't. Subject plus don't, then we use verb 1. Let's use some examples of the facts that I mentioned for present simple to practice this. I don't live in Africa. I don't speak French. I don't have a pet crocodile. These are things which are not factually accurate about me. Let's go here. Things get a little bit more confusing when we change the subject. Just like when we change the subject with the affirmative form to he, she, it, we put an S or an ES. In the negative form, it also changes. In the negative form, we do the subject plus doesn't plus verb 1, not plus don't. If it's he, she, or it, we have to say he doesn't, she doesn't, it doesn't. I gave you the example of a dog. The dog has 4 legs. If we're using the negative, we won't say has, we'll say have. The dog doesn't have 3 legs. The dog doesn't have 2 legs. The dog has 4 legs. Let's just have a look here. We have one person beneath us. And another guy over... Okay, I'm going to change direction and go over here a little bit. And do some running. So, still using present simple for facts. We're still using present simple for routines, but we use don't with I, you, we, they. We use doesn't with he, she, and it. Let's have a look at some examples of present simple for routines in the negative form. He doesn't wake up at 7 o'clock. I wake up at 7 o'clock, but my friend doesn't wake up at 7 o'clock. He's actually a swim coach, so he wakes up very early. He wakes up 5:30 most mornings. I'm not jealous of him having to wake up very early. I'm quite lucky. So I wake up at 7. He doesn't wake up at 7. He wakes up at 5. I don't wake up at 5. I, you, we, they plus don't plus verb 1, he, she, and it plus doesn't plus verb 1 for present simple tense for both routines and for facts. You'll hear people often use the word habits. In this situation, it actually means the same as routines. Habits are things that we do again and again and again. Habits can have a bit of a negative association, or what we call a negative connotation. And we refer to these as bad habits. Things like chewing with your mouth open, we say it's a bad habit. Something I do, which is a bad habit, is cracking my knuckles. It can be a little bit of a bad sound for other people. I do it without thinking. Even being rude can be considered a bad habit. Not holding the door for people, not saying please and thank you. We can say those are bad habits. Let's see what we have in here. Okay, we're not doing so well this round with our weapons. We only have a pistol. That's okay, get some health. Alright. Okay, so that's the negative form. Again, used at the same time as we use the affirmative form. The difference is that we have to add don't or doesn't before the verb. And choosing don't or doesn't will depend on the subject of the sentence. Last, we'll take a look at present simple. What do we have? Nothing good. Present simple in its interrogative form. The interrogative just means to ask questions. You may have watched some police TV shows where they say they are going to interrogate the witness or interrogate who they think did the crime. It just means they're going to ask them questions with the intention of getting an answer out of them. So in grammar speech, in the technical jargon of the English language, we say interrogative is the question form of a tense. The interrogative form of present simple also does that weird thing where it changes structure depending on the subject. Again, it's always the same. I, you, we, and they are associated with one structure. He, she, and it go with a different structure. In the case of asking questions, we put what was the negative, doesn't or don't. We remove the not and we move that to the front of the sentence. If we're asking a closed question, which is a yes or no question, we might say, do you, again, subject you goes with do, not does. Do you speak French? Do you live in China? Do you have any pets? If the subjects are he, she, or it, we use does. Does he study every week? An example of a routine. Does she learn English on Thursday or Friday? So just like with the positive form and the negative form, we use present simple tense for routines or for facts. Oh, okay, we have an open door here. So I will not go there. Let's go over here. Let's go to the top of these houses over here. Just mark them. Okay. Okay, let's give some examples. We'll mix everything together. So we'll mix the affirmative form, the negative form, and the interrogative form, all with present simple. We'll change different subjects. We'll also use different situations, habits, or routines. We'll do 3 positive for he, she, it, 3 positive for I, you, we, they, and so on for negative and interrogative. Let's start with I, you, we, they in its affirmative form. I play video games every 2 or 3 days. You go on Facebook, I guess, you go on Facebook every day, if you're the same as me, because I go on Facebook every day. One more, let's do we, you and I. We study English together on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, a lot of different social media. We study. Okay, how about some examples with he, she, and it? I'll use the example of my friend who's a swim coach. He lives... Oops, someone's been here too. This is not good. Okay. He lives outside the city center. I live in the city center. He lives outside the city center. Let's grab this. He works at a large school. I work in a small school. He works, listen for that S sound, it's very important. He works in a small school, big school, sorry. I work in a small school. One more example. Let's talk about my sister. She has a house in Australia. She has a big dog. So she has a house in Australia. She has a big dog. She's married. She is married. So if I want to refer to her and her husband, I cannot say they has. With they, we have to change it to have. They have a house in Australia. They... Oops. Let's hide from this guy. Oh, he knows I'm here. They have a big dog. Let's see what he does. Unfortunately, I don't have a grenade to push him. Oh, he got me. Next time he pops out, we'll just charge him and see if that works. Ah, he got me. Okay, so they have a big dog. She has a big dog. There you go. 3 examples in the affirmative form. Let's change it to negative. I don't live outside the city. I don't have a pet dog. How about we? We don't live in the same country. Probably. Chances of us both living in the same country are very slim. They're very small. So we don't live in the same country. If I want to do he, she, or it with a negative form, we'd say he doesn't live downtown. She doesn't work in a big school. It, in the case of maybe a pen, it doesn't use red ink. It uses blue ink. And finally, some more examples using questions, interrogative form. Do you have a good job? Do you live with your family? Do you work in a big city? Change it for he or she. Does he drive a fast car? Does he own his own house? Does she study every day? So do with I, you, we, they. Does with he, she, and it. And that's all there is for present simple tense. It's not so confusing. Use it when you're talking about facts. Use it when you're talking about routines. But the most important thing is to remember how the verb will change depending on the subject. And the split is all the same for affirmative, for negative, for interrogative. I, you, we, they, we use one form. He, she, it, we use another form. It is normally the one that confuses people, because if we're talking about a person, it's quite easy to tell whether or not it's a guy, it's a girl, it's a group of people, if you're included, if you're not included. It is everything else which doesn't fall into that category. It can be animals if we don't know if they are male or female. It can be inanimate, means not living or not moving objects, like a computer, like a headset. These are all it. So if you're talking about something which is not a person, the pronoun you'll use is it. Of course, you can always just refer to it by the whatever the object is. If you're talking about it for the first time, if we refer back to it later, we normally say it. But the first time, you can talk about specifically what the object is. Okay, where are we? Let's go over here. Oh, we went there last time. Let's try somewhere different. Let's go over here. Okay, present simple, out of the way. We're going to move on now to present progressive, present continuous tense, which is normally the tense people learn second. They learn present simple first because it's the most common tense. They move on to present continuous tense later because it's really great for interacting with and communicating with people, because it talks about what you are doing right now. And of course, that information is important when you're communicating with people. Let's have a look around, see if anyone's here. Okay, no. When we're communicating with people, more often than not, we talk about, especially if it's somebody you know well, like a friend or a teacher at school, we are talking about what the person is doing right now. In that case, we have to use present, pick that up, present progressive tense. Again, we'll go through the affirmative form, the negative form, and the interrogative form of the tense, and then we'll look at some specific examples for each. Before we go into the details of the tense and when to use it, there's something which is crucial knowledge for present continuous tense, and that is a good understanding of the verb to be in its present simple form. The verb to be is a very confusing verb in English because it takes on many different forms depending on the tense. In fact, more than any other verb, it changes. So there's a bit of studying involved just to learn, what do we have here? Just to learn exactly how to change the verb to be depending on the tense you're using. For present continuous tense, we don't need to worry too much about that because we will only use the verb to be in its present, hence present continuous form. That is, am, or are. There could be a time where we use be. Normally we'd only use that with adjectives in their present form, or if you're using passive voice, but we're not going to worry about passive voice today. Okay, so present progressive, you need to remember the verb to be in its three forms: is, am, or are. Also, when to use is, when to use am, when to use are. This is something we learn pretty early at school, so hopefully you already know it, but just in case, we'll review. We use is when the subject is he, she, or it. So he is, she is, it is. We use am when talking about I. We use are for we, they, or you. So I am, you are, we are, they are. He is, she is, it is. Let's grab the energy drink. Okay, moving on. So once we know that we are outside the circle, we're going to take a car. We're going to go for a car ride there. Where's the car? Here it is. Okay, let's drive. Once we know I goes with am, he, she, it goes with is, you, we, they goes with are, most of the difficult work is done, because no matter what subject you have, the part that comes after the verb to be will be the same every time. It's going to be a verb ing. So we just put ing at the end of the verb. Doesn't matter if it's I, you, we, they, he, she, or it. It's always going to be ing at the end. So that bit's simple. And that's all there is to the structure of the affirmative form of, I can hear a car, of present progressive. I am playing a video game. You are watching me play a video game. I am wearing earphones. Maybe you are wearing earphones. You'll hear me use present progressive a lot in today's live stream because I'll see people all around and I'll tell you what they are doing. Ooh. So if we use the example of the car as the subject of our sentence, I can actually see, there we go. The car is moving at 87, 88 kilometers per hour. I can hear a plane, but it's gone now. That's all right. So the car is moving. I am driving. I am. Oops! Someone's shooting at me. That's all right. We'll ignore them. There you go. Someone is shooting at me. I use present progressive tense because it was happening at that moment. That's the most important time we'll use present progressive tense, to talk about what somebody is doing right now. I am driving through a very dangerous city, and this might be a big mistake. So, okay, let's go around. There we go, better. And we'll go up this hill. The car is bumping over lots of small humps in the field. Alright. So, for the affirmative form of present progressive tense, subject plus is, am, are plus verb ing. The is, am, are, that's the confusing bit. If you can nail that, you should be fine. Just use it to talk about things we do right now, things which are not completed yet. There is one more time that we use present progressive tense, and I'll get onto that later. But let's just sort out the examples using the current form. Otherwise things might get a little bit confusing. Now this is the town I want to go to. Is that a person? No. Oops, somebody has died there. That little box means that they died. So, oh, there we go. He is shooting at me, so I'm driving away. There you go. Thank you for giving me a good example of the grammar, sir. I appreciate it. Okay, let's go down here. Yes, I am driving away because I don't want to get into another fight. I've not played well today, so I don't want to die again so quickly. Alright. Affirmative form, subject plus is, am, are plus ing. Let's take a look at the negative form. It's actually really, really simple. All you need to do is add not. I am not doing this. He is not doing that. She is not doing this. That's all there is. So I am driving a Jeep. I am not driving a sports car. I am... All these doors are open. I don't want to go there. I am wearing headphones. I am not wearing a tie. You are watching me play video games and teach English. You are not watching Harry Potter. This guy up here, I wonder if he is going to shoot at me again. Let's see. No. Before, I would have said he is shooting me with a rifle. He is not shooting me with a pistol. Something like that. In the case of present progressive, it's actually a lot easier to change from affirmative to negative form than, let's get out here, then present simple is. Present simple has the does, the don'ts, the do, the does. It's a bit confusing. Present progressive is much more straightforward. Is, am, are plus not plus verb ing. So I am running, I am not walking. Okay, how about the interrogative form, asking questions? Just like with present simple, we put the... Oops, somebody's been here as well. This is not going great for me. Where is that plane? Just like with present simple, with the interrogative form, we have to rearrange the sentence a little bit. Instead of saying, I am playing, we have to take the auxiliary verb, in this sentence am is an auxiliary verb, and move it to the front. But we have to make sure the auxiliary verb matches the subject in the same way as it did with the affirmative form. So instead of saying am I playing, if you want to ask me a question, you wouldn't say am I playing, you'd say are you playing. Just like if it's an affirmative sentence, you'd say you are playing. Asking a question about me, switch you and are to are you. If I want to ask some questions about my father, I might say is he, it's quite late. Maybe I'd call my mom and say, is he sleeping? Are you watching TV? How about you? Are you shooting over there? Are you listening with headphones, or are you listening with speakers? Are you watching on your phone, or are you watching on a computer? Anybody else here? Nope, I think we are safe. I think we might just go and hide in a room for a little bit, which is something you shouldn't really do in this game, but that's okay. We can focus on some English for a while. Okay, nobody else here, we're good. So, affirmative form, subject plus is, am, are plus verb ing. Negative form, subject plus is, am, are plus not plus verb ing. Great. Interrogative form, switch the subject and the auxiliary verb is, am, are around. Are you is he, am I, if you want to ask a question about yourself. Maybe you are eating some food and you're worried that it's being very noisy. You might ask your friend, am I eating too loudly? Am I making a lot of noise? Something like that. I mentioned a little while ago that the time we use present progressive or present continuous tense is to talk about something we are doing right now. There's one more time that we use present progressive tense, and that's to talk about, and this is going to sound confusing, but hold on, to talk about the future, specifically future plans we have. If I tell you I am playing a video game, you should understand that to mean, oops, shooting down there, to understand that to mean I am playing a video game right now. If I said I am playing a video game tonight, that lets you know I have the plan to play the game not now, I'm not playing now, but tonight I have a plan to do this thing. The way you can differentiate between somebody doing the action now and somebody expressing what their plan is in the future is that to use present progressive with a future plan meaning, you have to be specific about the time. If you just say, what are you doing? And I say, I'm watching a movie, that means right now. But if you ask me, what are you doing tonight? And I say, I am watching a movie, because you specified the time in your question, I can answer in present progressive to speak about my future plans. I am watching a movie. If you hadn't told me when, then I would have to say, I am watching a movie tonight. Now let's be careful as we go into this house, because people hide in these houses a lot. What do we have? We have a quick draw. Okay, let's grab that. Not the best, but it's better than nothing. Maybe nobody's been here. Or maybe they're waiting upstairs to get me. Let's find out. Nope, that's okay. Very cool. Okay, so present progressive, when used for future meaning, the structure doesn't change. Exactly the same structure as when talking about present progressive for current action. But be specific with the time if you want to make sure they understand clearly that you're talking about the future and not the present. Let's keep low for a little while. Let's hide in here and we'll get some teaching done rather than running around. Okay. We might have to run away in a little bit, but not just yet. Okay. Do I need that? Yes, I'm going to grab this as well. Okay, wonderful. Let's go through some examples just to make sure everything is 100% clear with present progressive tense. I'll do some with I, you, we, they, he, she, it in the affirmative form, then some in the negative form, then some with the interrogative form to talk about right now. And I'll give some examples with a future plan. So let me tell you right now. I am wearing a gray and white checked shirt. This pattern is called checked. Sometimes you can call it plaid, but because the boxes are the same size, it's better to call it checked. I am wearing a gray and white checked shirt. I am playing a video game. I am speaking into a microphone. I am looking at the camera. If you are watching this, then you are looking at me. You might not be able to hear that, but over here, they are shooting some guns. Okay, there we go. Over there, by the red smoke, they are shooting guns, and I am not going to go over there. They are shooting guns. They are probably killing each other, which is sad. I'll hide away from them. In its negative form, I am holding, maybe you can see it, assault rifle. There we go. I am not holding a sniper rifle. I am not using a shotgun. Excuse me. I am drinking water. I am not drinking Coke. I am not drinking Pepsi. If we're asking questions using present continuous, are you playing? Ooh, we got a vehicle pulling up right outside. There he is. Okay. We might be in for a fight in a second. Let's hide here and see if he comes up. Oh, he's inside. Let's just take a pause from the game. There we go, got him. Level 3 helmet, let's take some ammo. Okay, and back to the game, back to the lesson rather. Yeah, are you watching this on a phone? Are you watching this on a PC? Again, switch the subject and the auxiliary verb around if we're asking a question using present continuous tense. All right, we've done present simple, we've done present progressive. I hear a motorbike out there somewhere. That's all right, we'll leave that motorbike alone. Present simple done. Present progressive done. We're going to move on to past simple tense. Past simple tense is often something that confuses people because depending on the language that they're familiar with, depending on the language which is their native tongue, this tense may or may not even exist. In fact, some languages don't have past simple tense at all. Other languages do have past simple tense, but they don't use it in the same way that we use it in English. I could be mistaken here, but I work with a lot of French teachers at my school, and they explain to me that they can use present perfect tense in the same way that we use past simple tense, which we'll get onto soon. In English, the way we use past simple tense is to talk about a specific action which is finished, and it was finished at a very specific time in the past. This action is no longer in progress. This action did not happen repeatedly as a routine. This action was done, this action is completed, and I'm usually specifying when the action took place. Let's look at the structure. Oh, I do have to run, so I might die here. Let's find out. We're going to switch to this gun. Oh, we got a little bit of a ledge there. That's all right. Let's run. Okay, so the structure of past simple tense is actually quite straightforward. The difficulty comes with knowing how to change the verb from verb 1 to verb 2. When we talked about present simple tense, we mentioned that it's present simple, it's just a subject plus a verb. Present simple is subject plus verb 1, the base form. Past simple is subject plus verb 2, or the past simple form. We'll take a look at, oops, am I going to get hit by the wall? No, I'll be fine. We're going to have a look at some common regular forms, verbs. We'll also have a look at some common irregular forms of verbs. So subject plus verb 2 is the affirmative form of past simple tense. As long as you can change the verb to its past simple form, you'll be fine with this tense. Let's do some practice with changing verbs to their past simple form and make sure nobody's behind us coming to kill us. Alright, looks like we're safe for now. Let's move uphill a little bit. Oh, somebody's shooting at me from behind. Oh, there he is. Oh, that was very fortunate. He got killed by this guy over here. You'll notice that I always shake a little bit like a horror movie when I get shot at. Hang on, let's see. hit him once. But I think he's probably safe behind that tree. Let's move up a little bit. Which might be a mistake, but that's okay. Oh no, there's a motorbike here. So let's assume. Assume means to believe something is true, even if you don't have facts to back it up. Because I don't know, but I'm assuming that there's somebody nearby because there's a motorbike here. Okay. That's alright, if we die it's no problem. Let's take a look at some examples of verb to. Verbs can be split into two categories. We have regular verbs and we have irregular verbs. Regular verbs, when changing from verb 1 to verb 2, are quite simple. You just put ed at the end. Anyone here? Thought I heard something. No, okay. So for example, play, we change to played. Work changes to worked. Create becomes created. Decide becomes decided. These are simply adding ed at the end to change them to their past form. That's not too difficult. As long as you remember to put ed at the end, you'll be fine. It can be a little bit difficult, however, to remember the irregular form of some verbs. Some verbs you do not put ed at the end to change them to past tense. A good example of this would be the verb eat. We would not say I eated something yesterday. We have to say I motorbike coming. Oh, there's the wall. I wasn't paying attention, that's okay. Oh well. Okay, now you'll see my health start to drop now because, oh, I'm actually just ahead of the wall. That's very fortunate. I'm a little bit faster than it. How many people are alive? 18. We're doing okay. Yeah, eat does not change to eated because it's an irregular verb. Eat changes to ate. Another very common irregular verb is the verb go. We don't say I goed somewhere yesterday. We say I went somewhere yesterday. The structure is the same even if it's regular or irregular. Subject plus verb to. But we do have to do simply a little bit of memory to remember whether a verb is regular or irregular. There's no trick to remembering which verbs are regular or irregular. It's not like action verbs are regular, state verbs are irregular, nothing like that. Also, there's no real formula to how to change a regular verb to an irregular verb from its simple present simple to its past simple form. The changing of the verb will depend entirely on what it is. There's no special patterns or anything like that. Okay, we have somebody up here. Let's just take our time. Oh, and we have a motorbike there as well. Okay, let's just lay low in this bush for a while. Let's do some hiding in the bush. Some other common examples of irregular verbs. Buy changes to bought. Keep changes to kept. This is one that a lot of people get confused by, which is the verb learn. You'll see some places learn changing to learned with the ed. Some places will change it to learnt with a t. In fact, both are fine. Ed is a more modern American way of changing it to past simple. T is a more common British way. But in actual fact, both are fine. Another example of a common irregular verb would be see. We wouldn't say yesterday I seed a movie. Yesterday I saw a movie. So, past simple, affirmative form, subject plus verb to, as long as you... Ooh, we made it to the top 10. I consider this a victory, even if I die right away, which is a good chance I will, because I'm on low ground. Let's go up to this rock and see what happens. Yeah, subject plus verb 2. As long as you can remember how to change verb 1 into verb 2, is that somebody? No. You'll be okay. The negative form of, let's just go through some examples before we push on to the negative form. Remember, past simple, something completed in the past at a specific time. So every example I give you now, I'm going to be quite specific about when I did it. Usually if you're having a conversation, somebody will ask you a question specifying the time that they want to know about. So you don't have to specify, there's somebody, it's gone. So you don't have to specify the time. But in these examples, I will be specific about when I did it. That won't always be necessary. Let's use one of these. Yesterday, actually, let me tell you about my day today. Today is actually a public holiday in the country I live in. Even though it's a Saturday, it sounds confusing to have a public holiday on a Saturday. I usually work on Saturdays, but today I didn't work because it's a public holiday. So I woke up at 9:30. I usually wake up at 7, but I woke up at 9:30 today. I met my mother for brunch because it's Mother's Day, so we met up. After brunch, I returned home. Let's switch to this gun. After lunch, I returned home. Oops, this is not working out as I had hoped. I thought there'd be some more cover up here. But there isn't, and here comes the wall. So now we're running. This rock will become my home. 5 alive. Okay. So after brunch, I came home. I returned home. Then what did I do? I cleaned my condominium. Is that somebody there? No, some people hide in the grass, but it's nobody there. I cleaned my condominium. I called my friend. He had a problem with his computer, so I helped him with his computer problem. I prepared for the live stream tonight. Hey, top 2, I might win this. I won! That was a very disappointing victory. He died outside the play zone. There you go. Any victory counts. So out of 92 people, I came first. That's unusual. I won. Perfect. Past simple tense. Not I win. I won. Win is an irregular verb. Changes to won, not wond, not wind. I prepared for this class today. I had a nap. For those who don't know, a nap is a short sleep, usually 20, 30, 40 minutes, although sometimes if you've had a busy day, it could go on for longer. I had a nap, and then I had dinner. There we go. That's my day. Now, the good thing about past simple, which is different to present simple and present progressive tense, is that no matter what subject you have, no verbs will change. It's just verb 2, verb 2, verb 2, verb 2. So as long as you can remember how to change verb 1 to verb 2, you're fine with past simple tense. That's why I'm not going to give examples of he, she, it, you, we, they. It doesn't matter. It's always going to be the same. Let's do another game. So, something finished in the past, specific time, past simple, subject plus verb 2. How about the negative form? This is not too tricky. You just have to remember the word didn't. If you can remember the word didn't, you can say anything in past simple tense in English. Because when we use the negative form of past simple, we no longer change the verb, the main verb, from verb 1 to verb 2. So you don't even have to remember how verbs change. We don't need to remember that eat changes to ate. We don't need to remember that win changes to won. We don't need to remember that buy changes to bought. We just need to remember the verb eat, the verb win, and the verb buy, and put didn't in front of it. So for the first 2 or 3 games, I can't remember, I didn't win the first 3 games, but I won the 4th game. I met my mum at 10:30 for brunch. We didn't meet at 12. We didn't meet at 2. I had a nap for 30 minutes. I didn't have a nap for an hour. I didn't have a nap for 2 hours. The negative form of past simple, in my opinion, is much more simple than the affirmative form. Affirmative form, you have to remember how the verb changes from verb 1 to verb 2. Negative form, you just have to remember to put didn't in front of verb 1. So if you can remember the base form of a verb, you can say everything negative in past simple. Okay. Interrogative is also very straightforward. Again, in my opinion, it's a little bit easier to use than the affirmative form. We just use did, then the subject, then the verb. Did you watch a movie last night? Did you buy dinner at Pizza Hut? Did you enjoy your class earlier? These are, let's decide where we're going. I know, let's go for another quicker game. Bit more action. These are things we are inquiring about, things we are asking about that would that somebody did in the past. We're seeing if these things are finished or not finished. Did you do this? Did you do that? These are closed questions. If we want to change it to an open question, just put the question word before did. What did, where did, when did, why did, how did, and so on. Sometimes you need to change the end of the sentence, but that's a topic for another day. And that's not specific to past simple tense. That's true for asking any open questions. Let's have a look, see who's around us. Getting quite lucky today. Not many people around. Okay. Can we land on the roof? Can we land on the roof? Nope. I didn't make it. And now I'm stuck. Oops. Okay, I didn't take any damage. That's wonderful. So, affirmative form, subject plus verb 2. Have to remember, some verbs are regular, some verbs are irregular. There's no trick to remembering which are regular, which are irregular. There's no trick to remembering which how to change irregular verbs to their verb 2 form. If we're changing a regular verb to its verb 2 form, we just put ed at the end. I'm going to give you a pronunciation tip after I finish this roundup of present past simple, because it's really useful for making sure you say that ed sound correctly. Let's grab this pistol and a mask over here. Okay. Perfect. Okay, affirmative form, subject plus verb 2. Negative form, subject plus didn't plus verb 1. Very easy. Interrogative or question form, did plus the subject plus verb 1. That's all there is to past simple tense. Something that completed in the past at a specific time. The specific time can be detailed in the question that you're asking or being asked, or if you're just telling somebody a story, you can specify the time in your sentence. Here's a tip for making sure you make the sound of the ed sound, the regular verb sound, correct. It's something that a lot of people don't do right, and it immediately, unfortunately, makes them sound much less natural, which is a little bit unfair, I understand, but that's part of pronunciation. Some people get so caught up on sounding like a native speaker that they focus on pronunciation and nothing else, and what you find is they have this really nice pronunciation, but the sentences they make aren't perfect. On the other side, there are people who don't focus at all on pronunciation, but their grammar is great. So when they're writing, don't want any of this. When they're writing, they sound really, really high level. But when it comes to speaking, they're very difficult to understand. This happens a lot with people who focus on textbook learning. They learn the grammar, they learn the sentence structure, they normally have great vocabulary, but they don't have a chance to practice their speaking, and so they end up not sounding particularly natural, or not even natural. They end up often not being understandable because they haven't had a chance to refine their accent and their pronunciation. So there's a balance. There's a balance between doing nothing but focusing on grammar and nothing but worrying about your pronunciation. You have to find something in the middle. Something that I do recommend you pay attention to when you are working on your pronunciation is making the ed sounds at the end of verbs when using past simple tense really spot on. There's a trick to this, knowing how to make the right ed sound, because there are actually 4 ed sounds at the end of a word. I'm going to link, when I upload this afterwards, I'm going to link to a video I've made on this topic, which will be really detailed, so it will help you out a lot. But in the meantime, we'll just go through the basics of it to give you an idea of how to make the correct ed sound at the end of your word. Can I go upstairs? Yes, I can. Superb. Okay, let's start with something which uses the d sound. This is something we consider to be the most standard ed sound, which is just a very soft d at the end of the word. If you have a word which ends with a consonant which is not a hard consonant, then you can do just a d at the end. I think I can hear somebody. No, maybe not. So, for example, play. If I change play to past simple tense, it becomes played. Yeah, yesterday I played on my PlayStation. If we look at something like, let's think of another good example. Ooh, I just heard somebody. Something I mentioned before, learned. In American English, they say learned. In British English, we change the spelling to a T sound, so we have to say learnt. But in US spelling, it's a ED, so it's just learned, because n is a soft sound. The Y at the end of played is also a soft sound, played. Okay, this is looking good. Let's keep moving. We also have a T sound. So we have a D and we have a T. The T is used when we cannot make the D sound. So in the case of play, it's quite easy to do a D after the Y sound. So played is not so difficult. Learned, again, not so difficult. If we have a word like work, which is a regular verb, it just adds a ED at the end. If we have a word like worked, let's have a go here. Give me a second. You cannot do a k followed by a d. This is too difficult a sound to make. If you try and do a k followed directly by a d sound, it ends up making the it ends up making the k sound like a g. Worked, right? Worked. We don't want to change the k to be a g sound, so we have to find a way of making a sound at the end of the verb which is not a k changed to g. The way we do that is by adding, let's change this, t at the end. So if you see a word ending k-ed, which is a very, very hard sound, we will change it to t, worked. Another example of this would be with the verb watch. Again, it's regular, so we change it to ed. But if you have a ch, it's quite a hard sound. It's not easy to do a ch followed by a d. So we do a t sound, watched. So those are the first two sounds, d and t. Basically, what you want to do is try and say d. If it's too difficult to say d, then change to t. Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I am very far away from the circle. Let's hope there's a vehicle out here, or I might be in trouble. Playing video games and talking about English is not so easy, but I think we're doing okay. Any vehicles? Any vehicles? No. Okay, we're running. That's fine. This guy has very good endurance. He can run and run and run and run. Let's change for this gun. Okay, so if it ends with a hard consonant sound, we have to do t, worked, watched. If it ends with a soft consonant sound, we can do d, played and learned. If the last letter before the ed is a T or a D, so words which end DED or TED, we cannot do a D or a T because it's a T or a D. You cannot do a TD sound at the end, or a DD sound, or a TT sound, or a DT sound. We have to have a new sound to take care of this. And what we do is we add an extra syllable to the end of the word. So in the case of, let's think, create, if you change the verb create into past tense, it's a regular verb, so we just have to make sure it ends with ed. Created. I add the extra syllable, create, 2 syllables, created, 3 syllables, because we cannot do a t or a t sound. Created. Ah, the wall. I won't take too much damage from this wall, so I should be okay. Although a car would be nice. That's alright. So create changes to created in past tense. Decide. Decide ends with a DE. It's a regular verb. I want to change it to past tense. Wow, it's a long way to run. I have to put an ED. Decided. Decide, 2 syllables. Decided, I'm adding an additional syllable because it ends with a DED. So that's a really great pronunciation tip. If you have a word that ends TED or DED, put an extra syllable at the end. And oh, wonderful, we have a car. Not sure, we'll drive to here and see what happens. Created, decided, learned, watched. 3 different sounds. There's the tid sound for TED ending. There's the did sound for D. Why can't I drive this car? Let's get in the right seat. That's why. Did sound for DED endings. And there's a t for words which end with a hard syllable, a hard consonant before the ED. And there's a d for words which end with a soft consonant sound before the ED. That's it for past simple. Change the verb into verb 2 for the affirmative form, subject plus verb 2. If it's in its negative form or its interrogative form, you don't need to worry about knowing how to change the verb 2. Just use didn't or did plus the subject. Okay, let's get to safety before continuing, because I don't want to start anything else until I know that the wall's not going to keep killing me. So we'll go quite far, and that should give me some time to heal up, because you can see I'm already on half health, which is not what I want to be. Driving through the apartments. Here you go, here's some English for you while we drive. Oops. Shots from the apartment. He is shooting me from, I'm not sure where, but he stopped, that's good. What is the difference between a condo and an apartment? A condominium is a building where individual people own the units. People will often refer to these units as rooms, but that's not the correct English. A room is an individual area of a house, of a condo, of an apartment. Now, some condominiums are what we call studio condos, which is just one room. Everything is in one room. The kitchen is there, the bed's there, the couch is there, the TV is there, whatever. That's called a studio. But anything larger than that, which has a separate room, like a bedroom, or maybe even a separate living room, we don't refer to this as my room. We refer to this as my condo, as my apartment, or as my unit. So a condominium is a building where individual people own all the units. An apartment is a building where one person owns every unit and they rent out the units to the people who want to stay there. So if you... Ooh, I don't want to go there. That's not a good place. Let's go up here. Which is more dangerous, but gives me better places to hide. If you live in an apartment, you will pay the owner of the building your rent. If you live in a condo, then either you own the condo or... Oops, let's go for it. Let's heal up first. You either own the unit or... Actually, let's just use the bandages. You either own the unit or you're renting the unit from somebody we refer to as a landlord. The landlord is the person who actually owns the unit and you're renting it from them. Now where's that? I can hear a car somewhere. That's alright. So in my case, I live in a condominium building and I rent from a landlord. I do not own the unit myself, but oops, someone's coming and I didn't close the door. Why do I still have all that? Let's get rid of that. I rent the building from my landlord. He owns the building directly. I don't rent from the owner of the building. That's the difference between a condo and an apartment. Okay, let's get set up here. Let's just make sure nobody else is living in this house with me. I can hear somebody shooting. Oh. Let's go for a red dot. That's a nicer one. And let's check out here. Okay, let's see how we're doing for time. I'm just going to minimize. Okay, so we've already gone a little bit longer than I had initially planned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at some of these questions. Hello Nafisa, good to see you again. And we are going to answer your questions. We're not going to go through present perfect tense today. We don't really have enough time. That's okay. So we have a question. Apart from the tenses, is there any difference between a lots of and a lots of? So I think you're making a mistake there with the difference between a lot of and lots of. We will never say a lot of because lots is plural. A lot of just means a high number of something. A lot of is good because you can use it with both countable and uncountable nouns. Many can only be used with countable nouns. Much can only be used with uncountable nouns. A lot of can be used with countable and uncountable nouns. So it's actually a bit of a cheat in that you can use it for anything, but in that way it's really good. Lots of has the same meaning. There are lots of, there is lots of, it's fine, but it's lots of, not a lots of. A space lot space of, lots space of. And Nafisa, I saw you had a question about the difference between a hard consonant sound and a soft consonant sound. There is actually a difference. I'm not an expert on the phonetic alphabet, the IPA, but there is actually a difference between the two of them. So the tip I want you to follow is not the memorizing which consonants count as hard sound and which consonants count as soft sounds. Just practice saying the word and you can tell for yourself pretty easily whether or not you can do a d sound. If you cannot easily make a d sound at the end, it's a hard consonant probably. Something like a K is a hard consonant, a T is a hard consonant. A CH, so like a ch sound, that's a hard consonant. P is a hard one, P. So we say, yesterday I slept for a long time, not yesterday I slept. If you try and say a P with a D sound, it changes the P to become a B sound. And again, we don't want to do that. We don't want to change the sound of the letter before the ED. We just want to make sure people can hear that we're adding ED and making it past simple tense. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Let's have a look. What else? You said, I had a nap. This sentence is a past simple, yes, but we have the helping verb, had, in past perfect. So how can we get the idea of these two? Okay, so what you're doing there is you're making a very common error, which is confusing the verb have in its past simple form, which is had, and the auxiliary verb had using, as you correctly pointed out, being used in past perfect tense. So had can be, have can be an auxiliary verb in present perfect, right? I have been, I have watched, had, oops, somebody's shooting me through a window. Let's get down and heal up. Have can be an auxiliary verb in the perfect tenses. That's how you know it's a perfect tense, if you're using the auxiliary verb have. Where was this guy? He must be just a... Oops, there's a grenade. Might die. Let's back up. So that's have. But have can also be a main verb, a regular verb. I've made a video on have and the different ways we can use it, but I'll run through that now because it's a great question. Have can be used as a main verb in a few different ways. One way we use the main verb have is to replace the verb take. And that's what I did when I said I had a nap. It's the same meaning as I took a nap. We can replace take, put in the verb have, and then depending on the tense, we change it. You can also replace the verb take with the verb have when talking about a shower. This morning I had a shower, same meaning as this morning I took a shower. You might offer somebody a seat at a table, please take a seat, or please have a seat. So that's one way we're using have as a main verb, not as an auxiliary verb. The other ways we can use have for possessions. This is probably the most common way we use the verb have. Oops, there's somebody driving outside with a motorbike. That's okay. I have a pet cat. I don't have a pet crocodile. That was the silly example I gave you before. In that sentence, have is meaning possession. It's not an auxiliary verb to change the tense, it just means possession. Have can also be used for possessions of sickness or illness or injury. Have a headache, have a stomachache, have a fever, have a cold. Let's see if we can think of any other examples of have. Replace take for possessions, for illness, for injury. Oh, of course. And we can also replace the verbs eat and drink with the verb have. For breakfast, I had, for brunch actually, excuse me, I had, let's go here. For brunch, I had French toast. For those who don't know what French toast is, it's when you get a piece of toast, you cover it with some egg yolk and you fry it, and you usually have it with maple syrup and jam or something like that. It's very nice, but it's not healthy. That's okay. For lunch, or for brunch, I had French toast. I also had a cup of coffee. So in those sentences, I used the verb have to replace the verb eat for the French toast and drink for the coffee. I had French toast. I had a cup of coffee. There are a couple of other times we use have with phrasal verbs and things like that. But for today, I think that should be enough to explain the difference when we use have as an auxiliary verb, which is at the present with the perfect tenses, present perfect continuous, past perfect, continuous, future perfect, continuous, and using have as a main verb. So very common error. Just be careful about the difference. Oops, I just picked up something that I didn't want to pick up. There we go. Let's run away. Yeah. Very common mistake. Big difference. Auxiliary verb has no meaning. It just simply lets us know we're changing the tense. But we can use have as a main verb, which is, has a specific meaning the same way any other verb would have. Eat, drink, own. These are all main verbs, right? Oops, what's this guy going to do? He's going to leave me. That's very kind of him. Now we have many vehicles over here. Oh, there he is. Let's go over here and see if we can take a shot at him. Oh, and there's another guy. Unfortunately, we're in a very bad position here. But we just got a little bit lucky. Oops. Ooh. Oh no, wrong way, don't get stuck behind the tree. My mouse stopped working, that's not great. Let's first aid. And see if we can spot him. Unfortunately, I cannot see him. Oh, now I'm being shot at from that side. I'm being shot at from that. Disappointing end. That's okay. I was being shot at from both sides. Okay, I think that's enough of the game for tonight. I saw a message as well. I'll open up the screen again. Somebody was asking what game I'm playing. This game is called PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. There you go. You can see it there. It's available on Steam for early access. So it actually isn't officially finished yet, but you can download it and you can play it a little bit earlier. Okay, and Nafisa, let's do one more question. You said, could you please explain the infinitive with examples? Sure. I think I can give you some examples of the infinitive. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, when we're using present simple, we don't use the infinitive, we use verb 1. 99% of the time, the infinitive is actually the same as verb 1. But there are some special verbs, like the verb to be, the verb to have, where the infinitive is actually the... there's another one. I can't remember it right now. The verb to be and the verb to have are two very common examples where the infinitive does not match verb 1. In the case of the verb to be, is, am, are verb 1, and be is the infinitive. In the case of the verb have or has can both be verb 1, but have is the only infinitive form. Now your question is, when do we use the infinitive? And that's a great question. There are certain grammatical structures which require the usage of the infinitive and not verb 1. People often get confused about which is which because, like I said, 99% of the time verb 1 and the infinitive are the same. If we take the example of modal verbs use the infinitive after a modal verb, so that's can, could, should, shall, will, would, all these things. These are all modal verbs. They are followed by the infinitive, not verb 1. For example, if we use future simple tense, we would say tomorrow it will be raining. We won't say, sorry, that was a future continuous. It will be raining. We wouldn't say it is raining, whereas with present continuous tense we say it is raining. Because we had the modal verb will in future simple or future continuous tense, we have to use be after, not verb 1. For recommendations, if we're using should, we will always use verb 1. We always use the infinitive, not verb 1. We should be quiet, otherwise we will wake everyone up. He should have an early night's sleep. not he should has. Even though if we're using present simple, we say he has, not he have. So modal verbs are the most common time you'll see the infinitive used rather than verb 1. Don't worry too much about the difference between the infinitive and the verb 1, because 99% of the time verb 1 and the infinitive are the same. The important difference is with the verb to be, because be is obviously nowhere near is, am, are, and people who say be when they should say is, am, are, or they say is, am, are when they should say be, makes a big difference to how natural they sound when they speak. So focus on making sure after modal verbs use the infinitive. Okay, I think that answers all the big questions for today. Let's just make sure. Okay, so we went a little bit longer than I had planned, an hour and a half, but again, that's no problem. The longer we go, the more details we can look into, the more topics we can cover, so I'm always happy to go a little bit longer if we are still focused on what we need to focus on. I didn't have enough time to cover present perfect tense. That's okay. I think what we'll do for present perfect tense is the next time I do a regular live stream lesson, not a gamer live stream lesson, just a regular one, it'll be dedicated to present perfect tense, because present perfect tense is really detailed. It's the most commonly confused and misused tense in English, in my opinion, because it comes at that level of English speakers where they know enough to communicate, but they don't know so much that their grammar is no longer an issue. That's the point where people start to learn it, in the sort of end of elementary, pre-intermediate level. That's when most people start learning present perfect tense, and it can be really, really complicated to understand the different ways we use it and to use it correctly. So the next time I do a normal live stream lesson, I'll dedicate that entirely to present perfect tense. That's the end of today. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your great questions. If you're watching this on repeat later on, if you have any questions that you didn't have time to ask now, that's no problem. Put them in the comment section below and I'll get round to asking them. If you haven't already, follow English Made Easy on Facebook, on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube if you think this video helped you out. If you want to help us in a little bit of a more financial way, supporting us on Patreon would be great. We have a few different tiers and there are some really good rewards. But in actual fact, just watching the video, giving it a like, sharing it with a friend, that's all the support I could ever ask for from you guys. It means so much to me. This is something I love doing. It's something I really enjoy doing. I found that I can help so many more people through online teaching than doing one-on-one lessons in a classroom. So the more support I get for this, the more time I can dedicate to it, the more people I can help, and hopefully we get a bit of a positive feedback loop where it just becomes more and more and more. I have big plans for the channel. I have big plans for the Facebook page, but I just need more time. I need to be able to dedicate more time to it. So any support you can send in the form of a subscribe, a like, a share means so much. That's all from me. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I hope you had some fun watching the video games, and I'll see you next time. Take care.